Okay, Hamza, can you hear me? Hamza? Okay, I'm sorry, I had some emergency, so I had to go. So that's why I had to start the lecture a bit late. So let me start the recording first. Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Last time we were discussing regarding the stability issues in Beam. So I have told you that Beam also having some local instability and overall stability issues. So local instability issues are same as of compression member, which are the flange local buckling and web local buckling. So web local buckling is of two types, not diagonal buckling and web crippling. Web crippling is due to the concentrated force which is acting on the maybe top flange or the bottom flange of our beam, and diagonal buckling is maybe due to the thin web. And here you have already seen these local buckling in also in previous lecture. So this is the web local buckling. So this is flange local buckling, and also here you can also see the flange local buckling here. A typical example of web crippling. And then overall buckling. So in case of beam, overall buckling is the lateral torsion buckling. So what is the lateral torsion buckling? In lateral torsion buckling, when a beam is subjected to loading, so it bends in downward direction, but at the same time, it also deflects in or twists in the lateral direction or in horizontal direction, which is regarded as a lateral torsional buckling. Actually, this lateral torsional buckling is the function of the total length of the beam. So this lateral torsion buckling can be controlled or can be prevented by bracing the beam in lateral direction or in horizontal direction. So for example, if we are bracing it from the middle, from the center, so it means that this central portion cannot twist or deflect in the lateral direction. What is the reason of lateral torsion buckling? The reason is that bottom flange, when a beam is subjected to gravity load, bottom flange, they are in tension, and the top flange, these are in compression. So the bottom half, which is in tension, normally it is stable because steel remains stable when it is subjected to tension. And the top flange, which is in compression, so it tends to buckle or bend due to the compressive stresses. So it means that the one section, half of the section is in tension and half of the section is in compression. So bottom part tend to be stabilized, but bottom part, the top part which is in compression tend to bend. So this results in lateral torsional buckling. So last time we have also discussed this. Due to lateral buckling of compression zone, the section is twisted as a whole due to the fact that tension zone remains stable and try to retain its position. This combined twisting and buckling of beam in a lateral direction is called lateral torsional buckling. So it depends upon the laterally unspotted length beside the loading of the section and cross-sectional dimension. So if we cannot reduce the load, then we can control this lateral torsion buckling by bracing the beam in lateral direction. So this is another example of lateral torsion buckling. So the beam, it twists in the lateral direction along with bending. So what is the unbraced length? So it is defined as the length of beam within its two sections whose compression flanges are laterally supported or braced against twist of cross section by perpendicular beam or slab or by some other way. So if we are bracing beam to avoid the twisting in the lateral direction, then the length between two bracing point, laterally braced point, will be referred as a LB or unbraced length. So in other words, it is the distance between 2 point brace against lateral displacement of compression flanges denoted by LB. So sometimes we can brace the compression flange to twist in the lateral direction, or we can brace the entire depth of the beam section. So LB is not the total length in gravity direction. LB is the total unbraced length which is laterally supported or laterally braced. So the section braced to prevent twist of member are considered better for bracing against lateral torsion plate. So how we can provide the lateral bracing? So this is a beam. So this is continuous lateral bracing. So the top line is embedded within the concrete slab. So LB is equal to 0. Here you can see that this is our main beam, and this is an extra member which is provided parallel to this, and these are the diagonal bracing. So these diagonal members are used to brace this main member to in lateral direction. So that this part it cannot twist in lateral direction. So length from here to to laterally unbraced point is the LB. Total length may be this one, but unbraced length may be the length between two laterally braced points. Similarly here, this is one girder and this is another girder. So this is braced in lateral direction by this perpendicular beam or this cross bracing. In the same way, you can see that these are the lateral bracing provided to this main girder. So distance from here to here will be the LB, laterally unbraced length. So AISC specification number F2 deal with the doubly symmetric compact I-shaped member and channel band above the major axis. So I will discuss this slide later. First of all, I need to explain the flexure behavior, then I will come back to these slides. Okay, I will also discuss this definition later. So type of the beam section, depending upon the position, we may have central beam, end beam, and depending upon the end condition, we may have simply supported beam, both and fixed, continuous beam, cantilever beam, and prop cantilever. And depending upon the type of this section used, we may have hot rolled steel section, and we may have cold form steel section. So we have already discussed these two types of this section in our introductory lectures. We may be made of built-up section. So when the largest rolled steel section does not satisfy the requirement of load or span exceed approximately 12 meters, so we prefer a built-up section. So rolled steel section with cover plates are used for span up to approximately 14 meters. And composite, if our steel section is made of two different materials like concrete and steel, then this will be referred as a composite beam section. So in composite beam section, please mute your mic, gentlemen. So in composite, uh, the top flange of the steel section may either be embedded in the concrete slab, or maybe top flange is embedded maybe by using studs or shear connector. So in this case, some portion of this slab, it also contribute toward the geometric properties of our net section. So this section is called composite. So this is the arrangement if we are embedding the top flange within slab. In this case, unbraced length will be 0, LB, literally unbraced. In this case, This is the example. So shear stud or shear connector, they are welded on the top line, and this input is transferred from slab to top surface, top line. Then we are having, these are the guidelines regarding the selection of the span as a main beam, secondary beam, and steel joist. For the main beam, span should be less than 12 meters is recommended. And for secondary beam, normally the span is kept between 4 to 6 meter. And at tertiary level beam or the joist, normally the span is kept 2 to 4 meter. Next, what are the stiffened and unstiffened beam? I would like to show you the some beam with stiffness. So here you will see maybe a plate girder or a steel beam. So you can see that some plates, these are welded on the web on the both sides. So these plates are called stiffener or stiffening plates. So sometimes we weld the plates with the web to increase the shear strength or to avoid the web crippling. Because if a concentrated force is acting on the flange or on the girder, so it may cause the crippling. Just to avoid the crippling and have the column action, so stiffening plates, these are provided. So if the stiffening plates or the stiffeners are provided to the web, then this beam is called stiffened beam. If these plates are not provided, if web alone can resist all the applied forces, then this web will be or beam will be referred as a unstiffened beam. So stability of section, the beam may consist of compact, non-compact, and cylinder section. So just like we are having three types of the column depending upon the failure, maybe short column, intermediate, and long column. In the same way, depending upon the load carrying capacity of our beam, we may have compact beam, non-compact, and cylinder beam section. So which beam will be referred as a compact and cylinder? So we will discuss. So I will come back to this slide, but let me explain the flexural behavior of a beam section. Okay, at the moment, you need to maybe understand one story from my side, then you will be able to understand. Let's suppose we are having a beam section, maybe W360 into 112, or maybe any, and this is made of steel, and we are having a certain length. Length of this beam section is equal to maybe 1 meter, you can say. And if in the laboratory, if we are applying the load, gravity load, omega, UDL load, and it is simply supported, and the length is L, then the maximum bending moment which is produced in the beam will be M. So beam is subjected to moment M due to the applied load omega. So this, you can say that we have divided the beam into four layers, two above the neutral axis, two below the neutral axis. So these are just reference line. After bending, for example, you have taken two sections, one and two. After bending, the distance between these two sections, they increases from here to here. For example, you can consider this section and this section. When you apply the load, so distance between these two parts and this point and this point increases. And on the cases, distance between this part and this point will decrease. It means that this fiber which is below the neutral axis, it is undergoing expansion, and the fiber which are above the neutral axis, they are being contracted or compressed. So it means that these fibers which are on the one side of neutral axis, they are subjected to tensile strain, and these are subjected to the compressive strain. So this compressive and tensile strain is along the length. So due to this reason, so you can see that the flexure stresses are produced in the beam section. So these flexure stresses can be computed by F is the sigma over stress, which is equal to my over I, or m divided by section modulus. M is the applied bending moment, which is the function of omega, and y is the distance from the neutral axis to the point where we want to determine the flexure stress. And I is the moment of inertia of entire cross section. Okay, we are increasing the load gradually. So when we apply this load, the load was small. Due to this load, we have moment. And due to the moment, when we computed the maximum stress at extreme fiber, so these stresses, for example, its value is 200 megapascal. And this section is made of steel 836. For 836, yield strength is 250 megapascal. So due to this load, applied stress at the extreme fiber, they are less than Fy. This will be stage 1. So if stress at the extreme fiber are less than yield stress, so it means that these stresses are due to the movement, and this movement is less than My, movement which may cause yielding at any point of this beam section. Okay, now in phase 2, we are increasing the load now. So we are increasing the load on beam. With the increase of the load, movement is also increasing. And if the movement is increasing, so section modulus is constant or y over I is constant. So stress, they are increasing due to the increase of movement. So we have approached to a certain moment value in such a way that stress just at the extreme fiber, they are just equal to Fy, because flexure stresses, they are the maximum at extreme fiber, and they vary linearly, and they are less or zero along the midline. So we have increased the load in such a way that we have approached to a moment My. My is the moment at which the yielding just occur at the extreme fiber. So load we increase. So this stage, the moment carrying capacity of this section will be called as a yielding moment carrying capacity. Yielding moment carrying capacity is the applied moment at which yielding just occur at extreme fiber. It means that it is due to the applied load. Okay, what will happen if we further increase the load? Actually, if we further increase the load, so movement will be more than My, and then the stress at the extreme fiber will increase, and it is increased beyond the yield point. So, or in other words, we can say that yielding will be penetrated inside the section. You know that the stress strain curve of steel yield zone is very large, because this strain is even more than yielding strain. If we are in the yielding strain is keep on increasing, but the stress remains constant. So with the increase of load, yielding is penetrated through the depth. So now we can say exterior portion is yielded. First, the yielding was just at extreme fiber. Now the yielding has come to this junction. Maybe you can say that. Now both flanges, they are yielded due to tensile stresses and compressive, and but some interior portion is still in the elastic zone. And then if we are keep on increasing the load, then entire cross section will be yielded, half section will be yielded in compression, and half section will be yielded in due to tensile fracture stresses. So the moment, the load at which the because we are increasing the load, due to load the moment is increasing, and we have approached to that moment value which is causing the yielding in the entire cross section. So when the entire cross section is yielded, so the moment carrying capacity corresponding to that point will be referred as a plastic moment carrying capacity. Why plastic? Because entire cross section has exceeded the yield stress or has entered into the plastic range or is yielded. Although the entire cross section is not completely yielded, some interior portion may be still in the elastic region, but we are assuming that the entire cross section half is yielded in compression and half is yielded in tension. So the moment carrying capacity or the load at which the entire cross section is yielded is called plastic moment or plastic moment carrying capacity. So plastic moment carrying capacity is more as compared to the yielded moment carrying capacity or the moment carrying capacity corresponding to any load. So it is always desirable for us that our beam will only fail if entire cross section is yielded, because corresponding to MP we can apply a larger load. So these are different phases, uh, stress stresses in the beam. Okay, now why we are studying this? Now the experiment that is very important thing that I'm going to tell you. Experiments suggest that a beam can only yield, we can only achieve plastic moment carrying capacity, or yielding may only penetrate through entire cross section if the length of the beam is less than a certain value, which is referred as LP, laterally unbraced length. This plastic moment carrying capacity is the function of laterally unbraced length. So what does it mean? Now I'm going to explain. So a person, he has the length 1 meter, but when he is kept on increasing the length, then he approach to a value of laterally of the length of the beam in such a way that when he further increase the load, only maybe 80% portion is yielded and 20% portion, central portion was still in the elastic range, and at that point beam started twisting in the lateral direction. It means that the lateral torsion buckling occurred when only 80% of the cross section was yielded and the remaining 20% was not yielded. When he further increased the length, then what happened? When he kept on increasing the length, maybe only 10% portion it was yielded and 90% portion was still in the elastic range, and beam started twisting in the lateral direction. It started showing the lateral instability. So when he further increased the length, he approached to the one length value. At that point, when we kept on increasing the load, and when the stress at the extreme fiber, it was just equal to Fy. Entire beam section, it was in the elastic range, and beam started showing the lateral twisting or lateral instability. And when he, at that point, is referred as a LR or cylinder length. When he further increased the length beyond a particular value LR, when the length is very large and when we are keep on increasing the load, then beam start twisting at a certain load value, and the load at which beam started twisting in the later value, if we compute the moment, and due to the moment if we are computing the stresses, so stresses at the extreme fiber, they were less than Fy. It means that beam started showing later torsion buckling before yielding occur at any fiber. So it means that due to the later torsional buckling, the beam can fail at a stress value less than equal to Fy. So ideal condition is that a beam must fail only if the yielding occurs throughout the cross section. So how we can achieve this full plastic moment carrying capacity? By avoiding the lateral torsion buckling. And how we can avoid the lateral torsion buckling? By bracing the beam in lateral direction. So in that case, we need to keep the laterally unbraced length less than a limiting value which is called LP. So LP is the limiting or maximum laterally unbraced length in such a way that beam can achieve its full plastic moment carrying capacity. So LR is the length of any particular cross section which is more than LP. If the length of the beam section will be more than its LR or cylinder length value, then a beam will always fail before achieving the yield stress at any extreme fiber. And if the unbraced length will be between LB, P and LR, then we will have the partially plastic section. Okay, this section, the capacity corresponding to this point is referred as a compact section. Capacity corresponding to this point where the stresses at extreme fiber are less than Fy are referred as a cylindrical section. If some of the portion is yielded and some of the portion of the beam is still in the elastic range, that is called non-compact section. Okay, here, now I'm going to explain the elastic section modulus and plastic section modulus. Elastic section modulus will be used when entire of the beam section will be in elastic range. So section modulus by definition is equal to moment of inertia divided by y. Definition of the moment of inertia is y squared into dA. So and y is the moment down. So one y will be cancelled square of. So actually that is the first moment of area, or that is the moment of area of yielded portion only. So we can also compute by mathematical expression. So elastic section modulus is the moment of inertia divided by y. So y is the distance from the centroid of yielded portion to the neutral axis. If yielding just occur at the extreme fiber, then moment of inertia of rectangular cross section will be b d cube divided by 12. And why? Because thickness of the outer layer which is just yielded is equal to y, and the distance from the center of the outer layer to the neutral axis will be equal to y, and that will be equal to d by 2. So this will be elastic section modulus, bd square by 6. Elastic section modulus will be used if entire cross section is still in the elastic range. And fully plastic section modulus if yielding occurs throughout the cross section. In that case, I will be same moment of inertia of the entire cross section, and yc is the moment of inertia, so moment arm of the yielded portion. So full half cross section is yielded. So it means that centroid of the half area will be in the center. So yc is the moment arm of this half area, which is d by 4. So if you are substituting the value of yc, and moment of inertia will be same, so zx will be the plastic moment of inertia, which is bd square cube divided by bd square by 3. So this is the plastic section model. So we are having a definition which is called shape factor. So shape factor is the ratio between plastic section modulus to the elastic section modulus, or plastic moment carrying capacity to the yielding moment carrying capacity. Yielding moment carrying capacity is the capacity when yielding just occurs at the extreme fiber. So this shape factor becomes 2. So this shape factor indicates that how much more movement a section can take when the yielding first occur at extreme fiber to the entire cross section. It means that plastic moment carrying capacity of a rectangular section is twice of ny. Similarly, if you want to compute the partially plastic section modulus. For example, if only this portion is yielded, then y will be the distance from centroid of this area to the neutral axis. Now I will explain the flexible behavior again. So when beam have adequate lateral stability of the compression plane, the only stability limit state that might limit movement strength is local buckling in compression plane and web plate element making up the cross section. For an internally compact section, even though these type of instability do not occur, the section may reach to the limit state of yielding. So I will explain in this slide. When the condition of part D is reached, I have already explained this condition part reached. Because if the strain in the fiber is more than EY, then it is called plastic section modulus. So I have already explained actually. The nominal movement strength in this case is therefore referred as a plastic moment carrying capacity. Moment carrying capacity corresponding to full yielding of the entire cross section is called plastic moment carrying capacity, which can be computed by plastic moment carrying capacity can be computed by yield stress multiplied by the plastic section modulus. And My is computed elastic moment carrying capacity by yield stress multiplied with the Zx. Just like I have explained, I have explained in my previous lecture, this equation. So plastic section modulus so you can say that moment carrying capacity is just equal to phi b Fy. This is just the moment carrying capacity, and plastic moment carrying capacity can be computed if we multiply the Fy with plastic section modulus. So this may be the My. Plastics moment carrying capacity MP is computed by using the plastic section modulus, and moment carrying capacity at any point can be computed as a using elastic section modulus. Okay, now I will be able to explain. Okay, before explaining this, let me show you some table that we will use or consult in beam design. Okay, here. you see that these are the tables which are given in LRG manual. Maybe for example, I am consulting page number 165. So for we here, my computer is hanging. Yes, here. So here the beams section or W section, they are placed in different orders. This order I will explain later. For example, for any beam section W215 to 28.4, we are given plastic moment carrying capacity, another moment carrying capacity that I will explain later, and we are given LP value and LR value. So all type of beam section, they are having a particular LP value and LR value. This LP value for this beam section or any beam section is constant. So LP value for this beam section is 1.11. This LP is the limiting plastic length, and this is the LRL value, which is for this beam section is constant, which is 3.76. So that is limiting cylinder length for this value. If we are having this beam section, and for this beam section, if its laterally unbraced length is less than 1.11, then this beam section will always achieve its full plastic moment carrying capacity. So this beam will never undergo any later buckling, and it will fail only when the yielding occurs throughout the cross section. But if the length of this beam section is more than 3.72, which is LR, then this beam, if we are increasing the load or movement on this beam, so there will be one point when this beam will start twisting in the later direction. So when it start twisting in the later direction, at that point, the stress at the extreme fiber will be less than Fy. So its moment carrying capacity will not be MP but very less value. But if the length of this beam section will be between 1.11 and 3.72, so we will have a partially compact section. Maybe some of the portion will be yielded and some of the interior portion will be in elastic range before the beams start twisting in the later direction. So AISC, so nominal flexure strength MN. So actually, we may have two types of the failure in case of beam section. Number one failure is we are keep on increasing the load and beam is not twisting in the lateral direction, and it is only deflecting in downward direction, and failure will occur when yielding will occur throughout the cross section, which is referred as a plastic moment carrying capacity. This may be the one failure. Other failure is that if we are keep on increasing the load and beams started twisting in the lateral direction before yielding occur throughout the cross section. So the failure may be the failure at which beam fail yielding occur, either the yielding occur throughout the cross section or it started twisting in the later direction. Whichever will occur first, that will be the failure. Or the moment at which either the beam started showing the later deflection or yielding occur throughout the cross section will be referred as a failure in beam. So if the beam is safe against later torsional buckling, then the failure will only occur when the yielding will occur throughout the cross section. A member will be safe against later torsion buckling up to its full plastic moment capacity if unbraced length of the beam is less than LP. So if unbraced length, unbraced means laterally unbraced. less than the LP, which is the constant for any cross section, then a beam will never undergo lateral torsion buckling, and it will only fail if the yielding occurs throughout the cross section, and this section will be referred as a compact. The moment carrying capacity corresponding to this condition will be determined as a MP is equal to plastic section modulus multiplied by Fy. And what is CV? We will discuss it later. So LP value for any beam section can be computed by this formula. So if for a 3060, if you substituting the E and Fy value, then the radius, the LP is approximately equal to 50 times of radius of gyration about the y-axis. So if for our beam section, beam unbraced length is more than LP but less than LR, so this type of the beam section will be referred as a non-compact section, that is equivalent to the intermediate column, and we will have inelastic buckling. Why inelastic buckling? Because some of the portion of the beam will be yielded and some portion will be still in the elastic range, or we will have the partially compact section, just like I have explained. Here, this is some portion is yielded and some still in the elastic range. This is compact, non-compact, or partially compact. If none of the portion is yielded, that will be the cylinder section. So we were here. So what is LR? Limiting laterally unbraced length for inelastic torsion buckling. Inelastic means that if the length is until LR, they will be inelastic. If LB will be more than LR, then there will be elastic buckling. Elastic buckling means later torsion buckling occur before the yielding occur at any point. So MR, moment carrying capacity. Actually, this moment carrying capacity is assumed as a 0.7 time of My, yielding moment carrying capacity. Yielding, at which the yielding just occur at the extreme fiber. And My is equal to Fy into elastic section modulus. So 70, this condition or limit is fixed by the AISC. These formula I will discuss later. I will not explain at the moment. MR, moment carrying capacity corresponding to length when LB will be equal to LR, can be assumed as 70% of My. My, moment, the load at which the yielding just occur at the extreme fiber. So if LB is more than LR, then moment carrying capacity can be determined by critical stress multiplied by elastic section modulus, and that should be less than MP. So FCR is the stress at the extreme fiber at which the later torsion buckling occurs. And this FCR value will be less than Fy. And how to compute? Again, I will not explain at the moment. I will explain when we will discuss some graphs. So now, depending upon the moment carrying capacity, we may have three types of section. Compact. A compact section is the one which is capable of developing its full plastic moment capacity before any local buckling occurs. So in order to qualify the section as a compact section, we must have these four conditions to satisfy. Number one, web should be continuously connected with the flange. That is always true in case of hot roll beam section. There is no flange local buckling, there is no web local buckling, and there is no any latest torsion buckling. If all these four conditions are satisfied, then our beam may be compact section. In case of our beam, we always satisfy first three conditions: flange local buckling, web local buckling, and we are using hot roll beam section. It means that our type of beam section only changes due to the later torsion buckling or by the unbraced land. So how to control the flange local buckling? So for this, we are controlling the B over T ratio of the flange element, which is BF over 2TF in case of the I section, less than lambda P. So lambda P value for the flanges of I section is 10.8. So we keep the BF over 2TF value less than 10.8. So we are not going to use the angle section as a beam, but anyhow, if we are using the double angle as a beam, so BF over T, the B over T ratio of the larger leg should be less than 15.3. For different flanges of hollow steel section, then height of the web over thickness of the web ratio should be less than 31.8. And to avoid the web local buckling, height of the web over thickness of the web ratio should be less than 107. So these are for flexure. These are different from the compression member. For compression member, this value was 42.3 for the compact web. But in case of the flexure cases, this limit is 107. And for later torsion buckling, unbraced land should be less than LP. Non-compact section. A non-compact section is the one which can develop yielding at least one of its outer edges before showing local instability. So that is, we can say, partially compact section. Some of the fibers are yielded and some of the portion are still in the plastic range. So we may have non-compact section if LB is more than LP and less than LR. So cylinder section, type of this section which cannot develop yielding at any point within the cross section before it starts showing local instability. Local instability means before it starts twisting in the later direction. A section will be cylinder if LB will be more than LR. So these are the limits for the flanges. Lambda R limit. For unstiffened roll flange is 28.4. Actually, we are not going to use this because we always want to keep our flanges and the web compact. Only type of the beam section will change when unbraced length will be more than LP or LR. So stability of the section. The beam may consist of compact, non-compact, and cylinder section, just like I have explained. So how we can increase the stability? By providing the lateral support. So we may have continuously lateral support. Continuous lateral support means that flanges, compression flanges are continuously braced to twist in the lateral direction. So there are two conditions where we can provide continuous lateral bracing. Either top flange is embedded within the flange, or the top flange is connected with the help of shear stud or shear connector, which are embedded in the concrete slab. In this case, laterally unbraced length will be 0. So normally the secondary beams, they also serve as a laterally braced lateral bracing for our main girder. For example, we are having this four column and our beam A, B and E, F are the main girder or main beam, and we have provided secondary beam B, F, DH, CG and AE. So actually the you for example you can say that this is the point C. This is the main beam AB and this is a secondary beam, and secondary beam is connected at point C with the main beam. So it may either be placed above this flange and the bottom flange can be fixed or connected with the top flange of this main beam, or we can connect by this way by cutting some portion so that the top surface may be at the same level. So now this main beam is braced by this secondary beam to twist in the lateral direction. So you can say that main beam AB is braced at point C and D with the help of secondary beam. So if I just catch the A and B beam here, the total length of beam AB will be 9 meters, but the length between B and D is 3 meters, which is LB. LB is the laterally braced length. The length of the beam between two laterally braced points is called LB. So this beam is having three unbraced segments in lateral direction, either AC, CD, and DB. So each of these segments is 3 meters. Sometimes, along with the secondary beam, sometimes they become ineffective in cases, for example, if this beam, this, this, and this three beam, this beam, they deflect or twist in the same way, then this secondary beam, they can also move in this same way or as a whole along with the simultaneous twisting of these three main beams. So in this case, the secondary beam will not be effective as a lateral bracing. In that case, we need to provide some cross bracing. So we need to provide the cross bracing. So in this cross bracing, actually, if this end it tend to move downward, so this bracing will be having some diastasis. They will not let it move in the downward direction. So cross bracings are provided. So these are the bracing conditions that I have also shown you the last time. So these are some other bracing conditions. So gentlemen, here I'm going to take some maybe 5 minutes break. So please hold on. Hasib, can you hear me? Hasib? Hasib?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, actually, I have an emergency, so I'm just winding up my class. So I'm downloading the attendance. So I will, inshallah, resume the lecture in my next session. So Allah Hafiz.